Man crates. Awesome gifts for men in real wooden crates, wrapped in a cocoon of duct tape, or housed in ammo cans that are virtually indestructible. Some gifts he'll get to assemble himself. Some gifts you'll beg him to share. And some gifts are sealed inside layers of rock-solid concrete. Gifts guys love, from grilling gear to old-school video games and more. Man crates. Awesome gifts for men.
Welcome into the Michigan Football Report, folks. Michigan goes down to Ohio State again, the sixth straight year. Ohio State is now 3-0 versus Jim Harbaugh, who is, as Michigan's head coach, is winless against the Buckeyes. Urban Meyer is now 6-0 as head coach at Ohio State versus the University of Michigan. Folks, they had this one, every opportunity to win it. They probably should have won it. And the thing that hurts the most is that a backup redshirt freshman quarterback came in with Ohio State down 6 points. Michigan was winning, had all the momentum in the world midway through the third quarter, and they still couldn't get the job done. So I don't want to hear the John O'Corn excuse, although he was as bad as any Michigan quarterback I've ever seen in the second half of this game. The game was there for the taking, as it's been so many times over the last 15 years in this awful 2-13, 2-14, whatever it is now, drought. I want to know from you, who is to blame for Michigan's loss? Now, we're going to get to the highlights here in a few minutes, but before we do, I really want to hear from everyone out there. Who's to blame, folks? There's a lot of people I think you could point the blame at. So, number one, is it Jim Harbaugh? You're in year 3. You've had 3 full seasons, and you've got the worst quarterback situation in all of the Power 5 right now. John O'Corn had multiple opportunities to make game-winning throws in the second half in the fourth quarter on 4th and 4 when you've got a player wide open. Prior to that, when Donovan Peoples-Jones is wide open on a curl route to the outside on the right. How is the Michigan quarterback situation this bad under Jim Harbaugh in year 3? How? I don't care if Wilton Spade is out. I don't care if Brandon Peters is out. How do you not have anyone that can play quarterback for this team? I don't want to hear the excuses. Ohio State did it 3 years ago. They had their starting quarterback go out, very much like Wilton Spate went out early in the year. They had their backup come back and play much better than John O'Corn or Brandon Peters did. He went out, and that guy led them to a national title in year 3 for Urban Meyer. So can Jim Harbaugh be blamed? Is John O'Corn to be blamed? He had some of the worst quarterback play in the second half of this game I've ever seen for a Michigan football team. It was an absolute disaster, folks. There were 3 or 4 plays that he could have made simple high school level throws to win this game for Michigan, and he couldn't do it. So is he to blame? Is the defense to blame? They had a 6-point lead. The backup quarterback came in. They did their job. They knocked JT Parrott out of the game. You hope he's not hurt long term, but you're kind of glad that he goes out for the rest of the game. And then this kid Haskins come in, a redshirt freshman, very little playing time. He not only outperforms Michigan's quarterback John O'Corn, but he makes the Michigan's defense look like a fool. They couldn't stop him either. He comes in and makes a great throw on 3rd down in his first possession. Then he gets down inside the 2-yard line in a run. He's not a running quarterback, folks. So is the defense to blame? Is John O'Corn to blame? Is Jim Harbaugh the guy to blame? I think there's a lot of folks to blame. Is the Michigan fan base to blame? Are you and I the ones to blame? Because I saw a lot of dang red in that stadium today. Again, Ohio State comes in, more than 30-40% of the crowd is in red today because Michigan fans are not supporting their team in a big game when Michigan has a chance to finish. If they win this game, which they should have, they could have finished the same record as Ohio State. This would have been not an 8-4 season, a 9-3 season, a better bowl game, a win versus Urban Meyer and Ohio State, and a lot of momentum going into next season. So I'm seeing a lot of comments. Tony's saying it's the QB to blame. Joe is saying O'Corn is a joke. Should have went with the freshman McCaffrey. I don't know if I can disagree with either one of those. You had competent quarterback play. Quarterback play that you get at Indiana, Illinois would have won this game for Michigan. Ohio State had no answers for the Michigan defense for much of the game. You knock JT Barrett out of the game in the third quarter with a 6-point lead, and you don't score another point the rest of the game. And, of course, your defense gives up multiple touchdowns after that. There's a lot of things that should have gone better in this game. A lot of things went wrong. I'm seeing Ryan coming up here with time to fire Jim Harbaugh. I wouldn't go that far, actually. I'm super happy that Jim Harbaugh is Michigan's coach. I think he's the best football coach they can get, which I think is a good thing. He's a top 10 coach in the game, I'm not so sure I'm ready to call him a top 5 coach, or even a top 3 or 4 like I was just a year ago when they entered this game at number 3 in the country and lost by, 1 score in double overtime in a game they probably should have won also. Came down to 1 play then, just like it likely could have came down to 1 play here. If John O'Corn makes a pass on 4th down and 4 to a wide open receiver. I'm not talking about wide open by a half yard. I'm talking about wide open. No one was in 6-7 yards of him. And that guy catches the ball, he could go to the end zone. I believe it was Chris Evans, but I'll have to get confirmation on there. I literally drop kicked a football into our office window when that happened. I was so upset that John O'Corn couldn't make a junior varsity level throw to put Michigan up deep into the 4th quarter when Ohio State's got a backup quarterback. I'll tell you what, folks, I am dismayed at this point. So I want to know about the defense here. Let's see what you guys think. Did the defense play well enough to win? Now, John O'Corn had one of his better games statistically in his Michigan career. 17 of 32, 195, a touchdown, an awful interception down the stretch of the game when Michigan still had a chance to potentially be in this game. Give me a yes, give me the like. Wouldn't have mattered because we have O'Corn, give us a ha-ha, and then just gave a no. They gave up 31 points. 7 of them probably didn't matter there towards the end, but no, they didn't play well enough. I don't know, to tell you the truth. I might be going towards the wouldn't have mattered with O'Corn, but I want to hear what you guys think. So, the defense gave up 31 points. I think that in an alternative scenario, alternative world, Michigan's offense is playing with some confidence. They're moving the ball in the second half. Ohio State might not score more than 21, 24 points in this game, and the defense does. So I'm going to go with that ha-ha face. It wouldn't have mattered. John O'Corn quarterbacked this team. And with that, I'm not so sure what Michigan fans can think about the future. Is Brandon Peters the guy? Would he have mattered in this game? I'm not so sure. But we're going to bring back a few more questions, it sounds like. So getting a question here from Benny Carroll. Benny says the defense did their job until the end. I'm going to go ahead and agree with you there, Benny. Spencer Walter says we have the talent, but the talent needs to step up. And that's a good comment from you, Spencer. I totally agree. They just didn't play as a team today. I just don't understand where Michigan thought they were going to win with that kind of quarterback play from John O'Corn. We've got another question here coming in from Tony Papa. Tony says the defense played well enough to win, but they were tired because the offense kind of sustained drive, I think is what he meant there. The offense did not sustain drives, especially in the second half after that first touchdown where they kind of got lucky with a screen pass to Kakoa Crawford, got him in scoring range. They punched it in. Also got a penalty in there to move it really close to the goal line. I think the defense did enough to win probably, but it wasn't going to matter because John O'Corn was the quarterback. Charles Hall, I'm sick of how this team is not ready for big games. Charles, I'm with you there. I don't know what to say anymore with this team. Jim Harbaugh is now 1-7 in his 3 years at Michigan against top 10 teams. He is now 0-3 against Ohio State. He is now 1-2 against Michigan State. They start the year next year on the road with Notre Dame. They go later in the year on the road to Ohio State at the end of the year. In between that, they go on the road Michigan State. I don't know about you, but I don't see multiple wins in that stretch. So are we going to be in year 4 as a 3 or 4 loss team next year? I think this Michigan football program has a lot of soul searching to do in this offseason. We're going to bring the highlights to you here in just a moment. I'm going to get a thumbs up from my producer when we're ready to go to the highlights. Kind of still putting those together, so we're going to take more questions. So, Charles, I appreciate that question. I'm sick of that too. So we've got Russ Jimenez saying it's bad play calling. And that's interesting you say that, Russ, because in the first quarter, I thought it was some of the better play calling I've seen out of this Michigan coaching staff all year, specifically given the circumstances that you're down, a guy like Ty Isaac, you're down 2 quarterbacks, you're down a lineman or so, you were without your best wide receiver, Tariq Black, yet the offense came out, they were creative, they were putting John O'Corn in position to make throws and make plays in a game that they had to win to have any momentum going into year 4. And now you're looking at 2 straight losses. You're looking at this year a loss in all 4 of your big games. The only win you have to hang your hat on in this Michigan football program this year is a Game 1 win versus Florida, a Florida team that absolutely imploded, that fired their coach midseason. That's the best victory you're looking at this year in year 3 under Jim Harbaugh. Let me talk about some other coaches for a second. In year 3 under Ohio State, Urban Meyer won a national title and had 1 combined loss the prior 2 seasons. So he went undefeated, couldn't make a bowl game because they were in sanctions. Then they had 1 loss in his second year. And then this third year, they had a national championship. I shouldn't say in the full season, the regular season. In that second year, they also lost the bowl game. But Nick Saban, first year, went 7-5. Second year, undefeated, till they lost to Florida in the SEC title game. Third year, national title. Bob Stoops, newly retired Bob Stoops, national title, second year. So this is year 3 of Jim Harbaugh, and they are nowhere near national championship contention like they were just 1 year ago. So we're hoping it's a recruiting anomaly, folks. That's what we're hoping for. But as far as I can tell, this program in year 4 is going to be worse off than they were in year 1. So with that, I'm not sure where we're going to take it. Looks like we have the highlights ready for you, folks. Let's get to these. It started off good for Michigan. Michigan came ready to play. You're going to have John O'Korn hit Zach Gentry here. Down the middle, 27-yard pass to get Michigan into the red zone. And the next play, Khaled Hill is going to smash it in from a couple yards out, 7-0. You get the entire offensive line, some of the running backs, O'Korn even gets in there. They're going to push you in. Michigan up 7-0. They're looking good in the early on. Then you get on this, Donovan Peoples-Jones, a punt return to end the first quarter. He's going to get it. 1 tackle. He's going to break 2. He's going to break 3 tackles, break 4 tackles, 5. Look at this hit right here. Boom, spin move, breaks 8 tackles on the play, gets inside the 20, gets caught from behind. Michigan's going to score a play later, and it's going to be Sean McCune on a little tight end fake block, go into the end zone play. So that's looking good. The Michigan defense was all over JT Barrett in the first quarter. You're going to get a sack from Mike McCray here. You're going to get a sack from Chase Winovich coming up. And you're loving where you're at in the first quarter of this football game if you're a Michigan football fan. But we're going to get into the second quarter, and it's going to be the JT Barrett show. So Barrett's going to be here. He's going to drop back to pass. No one open. He's just going to kind of walk down the field here. The Michigan defense was clueless on this play, folks. And Ohio State cuts that lead from 14-0 to 14-7. Next possession for Ohio State. Right down the middle. It's going to be Marcus Baugh, 25 yards, wide open, touchdown, 14-14 going into half. Now, we're going to go into the third quarter, and this is when I was still feeling good about this game. You're going to get a screen pass out here to Kakoa Crawford. You're going to get these offensive linemen, Mason Cole with 2 big blocks. Crawford's going all the way down the sideline. I thought he was going to go in. It gets taken down inside around the 10-yard line, and then they're going to crunch it in next play. It's Karan Higdon, but a pivotal play coming up here. Michigan's going to get the extra point blocked, and that didn't turn as pivotal as I thought it might, but it definitely affected the rest of the game from there. Now, just after that, JT Barrett is injured. He hurts his meniscus, folks, and with 6 minutes left in the third quarter, almost half the ball game, he goes out, but his backup, redshirt freshman Dustin Haskins, is going to hit this hell of a pass, hell of a catch. Tyree Cannell is injured on that one. He's going to go down, and then Haskins right here, little scoop out there, gets outside the pocket, and once again, he's kind of just going to walk, almost gets to the end zone, but he gets knocked out at the 1-yard line. They push it in from there. Later in the game, though, Ohio State hits this field goal. They're going to go up. At this point, they're going to be up 24-20, and Michigan has a chance. 4th and 4 here. Look at this play. Wide open, wide open, wide open. What were they doing there? Michigan still had a chance there. Still have a chance. Ohio State misses an extra point. Michigan still has an opportunity here. John O'Korn is going to drop back. Michigan's down 4 at this point, and what is this pass? I mean, the last 2 plays we just showed you from John O'Korn are 2 of the worst plays I have ever seen in Michigan football history, and after that, it really didn't matter. Mike Weber is going to pop it outside here, and he's just going to kind of toy with Michigan defenders, get in the end zone, and that was all she wrote, folks. Michigan loses to Ohio State again. The 6th year in a row, Michigan's going to fall to 8-4 on the year. Ohio State improves to 10-2. That's the 4th loss in the year for Michigan. We'll get that updated here in a second. But, you know, in general, John O'Korn, 16 of 31 in the day, probably threw more than we expected, 31 passes. I actually think those numbers don't look bad, and you think if John O'Korn can do that, you're feeling pretty good if you're a Michigan football fan. 185 yards passing for O'Korn, 1 touchdown, and that 1 interception we showed you there at the end. But he didn't get it done when it counted. That 4th down and 4 pass, I want to slam my head into this news desk because of how bad of a pass that was. That was one of the worst passes I've ever seen in my life. Ever. I cannot just understand what was going on there, and I am just distraught that Michigan is in this situation in year 4 under Jim Harbaugh, where they have a football team that has a quarterback that cannot make a wide open 6-yard throw on 4th and 4 with the game on the line, folks. Dwayne Haskins, their backup, redshirt freshman quarterback, 6 of 7, 94 yards. J.K. Dobbins, true freshman, guys, true freshman running back, redshirt freshman quarterback, went into the big house and beat your Michigan Wolverines in year 3 under Jim Harbaugh. KJ Hill, 2 receptions, 53 yards. And the victory for Ohio State. They get it 31-20, and I'll tell you what, it looks like Ohio State's going to be in the playoff again because that Ohio State team looked a lot better than the Wisconsin team that beat Michigan just 7 days ago. All right, before we get into some more questions on the state of this Michigan football program and their team, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Man Crates. They're putting up with me ranting at you about what's going on with Michigan football. It is the best way to get all the guys in your life, and maybe the gals too. I don't want to be isolated to the men. Go to mancrates.com. They have so many great gift packages. It's the simplest way to get the guys in your life a gift this holiday season. It could be the Michigan barware set. Maybe you don't want to drink those. Maybe you want to end up breaking them, but that's fine. They've got jerky grams. They've got all kinds of great food items. Anything that makes a guy feel like a man, you can get at Man Crates. Mancrates.com. They give it to you in a wooden box with a crowbar. You take that crowbar, you pop it open, and you really got to use the muscles to get in there. So it's a box full of testosterone. So want to go back now to the keys of the game. I want to see if Michigan was able to accomplish any of those 4 keys of the game we gave you before the show and also yesterday on Michigan football preview. So key to the game number 1 was absolutely Brandon Peters had to be healthy and he had to play. And we're going to throw up a big red X on that one, or a white X with a red around it, I guess, because Brandon Peters, frankly, he wasn't healthy, he didn't play, and Michigan, I think, played better than I expected with John O'Korn at quarterback, but nevertheless, they weren't going to have a chance in this game if Brandon Peters was not the quarterback. Let's get on to the next one. The offensive line. They had to play the game of the year. So I'm not going to give this a red X because they did not play a bad game, and frankly, the offensive line was one of the reasons they even had the opportunity to win this game in the 4th quarter. I would give that kind of a it's an attendance grade. You showed up to class, but we're not giving you a pass-fail. They played a good game. They played a game that was good enough to win this matchup versus Ohio State with a 3rd-string quarterback, depending on what John O'Korn is at this point. And I think they played well enough to win, but I'm not giving them a check mark because, frankly, they didn't get the job done and get the victory. So that's that. And they didn't get the hundreds, the rushing numbers we'll talk about here in a second. So next up, the 2016 first half versus OSU defense shows up. Well, they did show up for about the first half of the first half. So the first quarter they showed up. They showed up for the first half of the 3rd quarter. So they showed up for about 2/5 of this game if you kind of add that all up. So I think they showed up where they needed to. They shut JT Barrett, folks. I'm going to pull up his stat line here so I can give it to you accurately. JT Barrett, the 5th-year quarterback, 4th-year starter for Ohio State, a guy who has been in the top 5 for the Heisman in the past, a guy who has led Ohio State to top 10 seasons 4 straight years, was 3 of 8 for 30 yards. 3 of 8 for 30 yards and 1 touchdown, and Michigan still could not get the job done. So I'm going to give that a caution sign. They didn't fail that one, but they certainly didn't pass it. It was they shut down JT Barrett, but then Dwayne Haskins, I'm thinking this is going to be a name we're going to hear about for 3 more years, folks. He's a redshirt freshman. Dwayne Haskins comes in off the bench and outperforms JT Barrett, makes the Michigan defense look like a bunch of chumps, and that was that. And then 175 yards rushing was the 4th key to the game, and they didn't end up coming anywhere near that, and it's about where I thought they'd come in. It was 100 yards. They get a big fat X for that one. So 4 keys to victory. These are the one that Jim Harbaugh, I know these were on his board. Brandon Peters being healthy, being one that probably he couldn't control, but the other one certainly he could control. And Michigan was unable to attain any of the keys to the game, and that's why they lost this game 31-20. And that's why, folks, you're looking at an 8-4 year in year 4 where you can't beat any of the teams that I think most people wanted and expected you to beat if you're going to have the kind of season that you expect from a Michigan football team in year 3 under Jim Harbaugh. So let's take it to the highlights one more time, folks. We're going to make us feel good, and then at the end, you're going to be feeling bad because John O'Korn, he was looking good early on. He's going to hit Zach Gentry there for a 27-yard gain inside the 15. Michigan's going to smash it in this next play. Khalid Hill on 2nd and goal. They're going to be in. Michigan is off and running, up 7-0 in the first quarter. towards the end of the first quarter. Actually, should have been the last play of the first quarter. Punt to Donovan Peoples-Jones, and gosh, if he would have got in the end zone here, he would have gone down in Michigan lore as one of the great playmakers of all time in this game if he would have put it in the end zone, and they would have won. Look how many tackles he breaks here. This spin move, this is bright to the future. I like what I see out of Peoples-Jones there. He gets inside the 5, inside the 10 there. A couple plays later, Michigan puts it in on a touchdown pass to Sean McCune, and that was about as good as it got, folks. Now, we're going to show you a few defensive plays here. Michigan shut down JT Barrett for much of the game, specifically in the first quarter, and then Barrett came out of the game later on in the third quarter, as we said, but they were harassing him, they were sacking him, specifically in the first quarter. Rashawn Gary in on plays, Mike McCray, Chase Winovich here, but it wouldn't last because right here, JT Barrett's going to drop back the pass about the 21-yard line, doesn't see anybody. He's going to nonchalantly walk up that right sideline and walk into the end zone for a touchdown. 14-7 Michigan at that point. Next possession for Ohio State, it's Barrett, it's Marcus Baugh, 25-yard touchdown, no one's anywhere near him, and we go to halftime 14-14. On to the third quarter here. It's Kakoa Crawford's going to go in motion here out to the right. Mason Cole's going to pull from the right side, get a big block there, and then watch this. Boom, another block, and Crawford is down the sideline. He could have been gone, trips up here at about the 10-yard line. I thought he was going to get into the end zone, but Michigan's able to put it in, and they get a touchdown there, up 21-7. No, they're not, because they get the extra point block. It's only 20-14 at that point, folks. And that could have been a devastating mixed extra point. Ultimately, it wouldn't matter. JT Barrett in the third quarter is going to go down, hurt his meniscus. Redshirt freshman quarterback backup comes into the game. His name is Dwayne Haskins, and sure enough, his first possession, a phenomenal pass on third down. They're going to catch it. It's going to knock a Michigan player out of the game, and then a couple plays later, Haskins on 2nd and 7, just going to dance around here and once again almost walk into the end zone like Barrett did. He's going to get knocked out at the 1-yard line. Ohio State knocks it in. That next play, later on in the quarter, Ohio State gets the field goal, and that might be the differentiator. That's early in the fourth. But 4th and 4, this is the play of the game, folks. John O'Korn with a wide open Chris Evans out of the backfield, and he misses him. Still some light for Michigan here. Ohio State's going to miss a field goal, folks. So with 2 minutes left, 2 minutes and 20 seconds left, 24-20 Ohio State. John O'Korn, first down, first play of that possession, and I'm just shaking my head here. What was that pass? What was that play? I don't know what I'm looking at there from John O'Korn. Those last 2 passes were the worst I've ever seen from a Michigan quarterback. And then just after that, Mike Weber taken it to the house. Michigan's defense kind of giving up at that point. And your final score is 31-20. Michigan's going to go down to Ohio State for the 6th straight year. And this host is sitting in our Chat Sports studio here in lovely Dallas. Thankful he didn't spend the $1,000 on the plane tickets and the hotels and the game because, again, Michigan loses to Ohio State in a game they absolutely should have won, in a game that they outplayed Ohio State for much of it, really until the second half of the fourth quarter, and they knocked the starting quarterback, a guy who's been a thorn in their side for 4 straight seasons, out of the game, still couldn't get the job done. So I want to hear from you guys. So who is to blame for Michigan's quarterback situation? So I'm going to just break it down for you here, folks. You've got a Brady Hoke recruited player in Wilton Speight that led Michigan to a top 10 finish last year. And this is year 3 under Jim Harbaugh. You don't have a single Jim Harbaugh player that's been recruited by Jim Harbaugh that has won any game of note for this Michigan football program in 3 years under this coaching staff. So who's to blame here? Is it John O'Korn for just being a terrible quarterback? Is it Wilton Speight for getting hurt earlier this year? Is it the offensive line for not protecting Brandon Peters last year? Is it Jim Harbaugh last week. Is it that Jim Harbaugh has the wrong guys, including himself, on the offensive side of the coaching staff? Are they not developing quarterbacks? They've done better with Jake Rudock, who was an Iowa outcast, who couldn't get snaps at the University of Iowa as a 5th-year senior. He had to go to another Big Ten program to get snaps. They had a better offense, a 10 times better offense with him and Brady Hoke's players than they have in year 3 with Jim Harbaugh and his hand-picked recruits. So I want to know from you, who is to blame for this quarterback situation? Because, folks, it's the worst quarterback situation in Power 5. There's not a single school that would trade John O'Korn for the quarterback that they start this weekend. There's not a single school in the Big 12, Pac-12, SEC, ACC, Big Ten that would say, oh yeah, we'd love to have John O'Korn over the guy we started today, or we started yesterday, or we started on Thursday and Thanksgiving. So Michigan is the worst quarterback situation. Every decision Jim Harbaugh has made as Michigan's football head coach has led to them having John O'Korn being their starting quarterback in a must-win game to kind of salvage year 3 in this coaching tenure. And John O'Korn's the guy you put out there, and he makes the most horrific fourth down play, and frankly, a brilliant play call by Jim Harbaugh and the offensive coaching staff to get Chris Evans coming out of the backfield wide open with one man to beat. If he catches that in stride, folks, he is one man to beat. He's taking it to the house, and Michigan is up by 2 points at that point with under 6 minutes left in the game. I think they have a very strong chance of winning at that point. But John O'Korn, not only does he make a bad pass, he didn't even know the pass was there to begin with because Chris Evans was staying right in front of him, wide open, and he couldn't make the pass inside. So, pass in time. So, I don't know who's to blame. I'm not even going to start, but I don't think it could be anybody other than the man at the top. It's Jim Harbaugh. He has recruited poorly at the quarterback position, not got guys ready to play, and he didn't recognize the level of talent, which was not very high, of the guys on his roster, and that's what's led us to this position. We've got the worst quarterback in Power 5. I think there's a handful of MAC quarterbacks I'm taking over the quarterbacks that Michigan's rolling out there against Ohio State in year 3 under Jim Harbaugh. So on to the next question, folks, is can Michigan beat Ohio State next season? Of course I want to say yes because it's year 4 under Jim Harbaugh, and finally JT Barrett's going to be gone, and Urban Meyer, for maybe the first time since he was at Utah in 2003, has to enter a season without a surefire quarterback situation. But then this Haskins guy comes in and makes Michigan's defense look like a bunch of fools. So can Michigan beat Ohio State next season? Give me a like if it's yes. And then a ha-ha, I may even give an angry face or just shut this stream off if it's no, because if they don't beat Ohio State next season, that's 7 in a row. That's 4 straight losses for Jim Harbaugh. That is just unbelievable to me, folks. So I want to know from you, can Michigan beat Ohio State next season? What do they have to do to beat Michigan? Ohio State can Michigan do to beat Ohio State next season? It's going to be in Columbus. They're going to be starting who? Brandon Peters? Are they going to be starting Dylan McCaffrey? I'm not sure they're going to be starting a quarterback. Are they going to bring in a transfer, maybe a guy like Shea Patterson from Ole Miss, who would be a bolt of lightning to this program? So give us a like if it's yes. Give us a ha-ha if it's no. Press those thumbs. Get them going. You can vote more than once. I'm not going to mind. I just want to see those reactions fly across the screen. All right. We're going to do one more weigh-in here. Get into the comments. Tell us what you think. Should Jim Harbaugh make any changes to this coaching staff, to his coaching staff this offseason? And I really think I want to focus on the offensive side of the coaching staff here. So on offense, you've got Tim Drevno as your offensive coordinator for the 3rd year in a row, but they lost Jed Fish, who was their passing game coordinator. They lost Tyrone Wheatley, who was the running backs coach. And these weren't, people wanted to shake them off like, oh, these aren't big deals. Harbaugh is making all the decisions. But you know what? Jed Fish went on to UCLA as an offensive coordinator, and he was a former offensive coordinator in the NFL for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And Tyrone Wheatley is a running backs coach in the NFL right now, I also believe for the Jacksonville Jaguars, funny enough, with a guy named Leonard Fournette as his star running back 1 year out of college as a rookie. And you're replacing him with Greg Fry, who's coming in from Indiana as their offensive line coach and hasn't done much to make me confident. You're replacing him with your son, Jay Harbaugh, who's never coached running backs in his life. And then you're replacing him with a guy named Pep Hamilton, who frankly was fired from 2 jobs ago with the Colts. You get fired with Andrew Luck as your head coach. I'm not so sure that's a good thing. And then you go to the Cleveland Browns and you win, 1 game when you're their offensive passing game coordinator. And those are the guys you get to replace. So in my opinion, you need to revamp the entire side. I think you can keep Jay, but you got to put him back to tight ends coach because he's much better suited there. You got to get, I think Drevno has got, I don't know if you fire him, either you reassign him to offensive line coach or you politely ask him to take a job elsewhere, whether it's in the NFL as a line coach, whether it's offensive coordinator at another school, or whether it's a head coaching job at a lower level. I think Tim Drevno's time as Michigan's offensive coordinator has come and gone. I think Pep Hamilton is overrated, and frankly, I think that Michigan needs a wide receivers coach, which they don't, and they really have never had under Jim Harbaugh. So I think they need to make serious sweeping changes on the offensive staff. Jay's the only one I'd keep, but I would get him out of that running back position, put him back at tight ends where he coached the last 2 seasons, where Jake Butt was an All-American, and that's where he fits best. So before we go, I want to get some questions or some comments here. Charles Hall says, yes, the offensive coaches. Well, I'm with you there, Charles. They got to go. They're brutal. This Michigan offense is as bad as I've seen it this is as bad as the 2008. We all remember 2008, Rich Rod's first year with guys like Stephen Threet and Nick Sheridan as the quarterback, and Michigan couldn't do anything on offense that year, and they can't do anything on offense this year. So James Keister coming in here saying, yes, Drevno needs to go and the O-line coach needs to go. Hey, I am with you. I don't think Tim Drevno is getting it done. Greg Fry coming over from Indiana as the new offensive line coach. He's not getting it done either. I think he's got to go. Mike Diaz-Senzo, great name. Lloyd, we're sorry. Please come back. This is a question I can get behind. I'm not so sure I would definitely take Lloyd as the coach now, but I think Michigan fans sorely misjudged Lloyd Carr when he was coach, because Michigan basically went 9-3, 10-2, 11-1, and that one undefeated season when they won the national title. But they were in the Big Ten race every single year. A 3-loss season was a bad year. 4 losses almost never happened, but maybe one time under Lloyd Carr, 2005, we actually went 7-5. But that was a much better team. You knew every year that the offense was going to be amongst the best in the country. The defense was going to be pretty dang good, and they never had these kind of gaffes on special teams that we've seen throughout this year, like missing an extra point in the Ohio State game. So we've got Robert Montalvo says, not any of the coaches' fault today. Players weren't executing when needed. You know, there's a shred of truth to that. Okay, there's definitely a shred of truth, but I think the offensive coaching staff needed to recognize, not just this week, not just this season. I'm talking about 2 years ago. John O'Korn's been in this program for 3 years. This is his 3rd year in the Michigan football program. When Jim Harbaugh came in, John O'Korn came over from Houston. He sat out the 2015 season. He was the backup in 2016, and he's been the starter or backup in 2017. So you knew going into this game who you had, yet you still chose to put him out there. You didn't get Dylan McCaffrey ready. You didn't recruit more quarterbacks down the stretch. So I think the coaching staff needs to take the brunt of this loss, and I don't want to hear any of this BS this year. I don't want to hear about this Paris trip. They need to cancel it. I don't want to hear about any trips, any recruiting camps. It's not working. It's not working. Stop it. They need to focus on getting an identity. This team has no identity. They need to focus on quit making mistakes. They make more mistakes than any Michigan team I can remember. And they need to get players in a position to make plays, because if Michigan does not go 1 or 2 losses or better next season, I don't know what that says about Michigan's future as a football program, because Jim Harbaugh is probably the best coach they're going to get right now. And I don't know where the wins are coming down the stretch. If they can't in year 4 with a 3rd-year quarterback in Brandon Peters or someone else, they can't get the job done next year when Ohio State's going to be starting a brand new quarterback. I don't know what to tell you. So that's all the time we have today. You have heard me rant. You have heard me rave. Let me tell you about something I like. Man Crates. Mancrates.com is the best place to get a gift for Guy this holiday season. I just bought a few guys in my life, some family members. One of them, the Jerky Gram, it's a big jerky guy. It's just a big crate that you pry open with a crowbar of jerky. All the jerkies from over the world. I also got a Michigan barware, even though that guy might break those cups now. That's fine. It's his choice. It's his gift. He's going to get a big crate with a Michigan bar cups with the logo on them, some of those coasters that can pop a beer can open for you, all kinds of snacks and chips. It's the best way and the easiest way to get a guy in your life a gift this football season or this Christmas season, especially if he's a football fan, especially if he's a Michigan football fan. Still have 1 game left to go. A bowl game. Don't think it's going to be one any of us can be proud of, but nevertheless, Michigan will be playing in a bowl game. We'll find out a week from tomorrow which bowl game that will be in, and then we'll kind of focus on that in the offseason from there on the Michigan Football Report. So my name is James Yoder, your Michigan Football Insider. I do want to remind everybody, this show and all shows this offseason are going to be on the Michigan Football Podcast, the video podcast, consistently in the top 10 on the App Store. Just go to chatsports.com/GoBlue or search Michigan Football Report in the podcast app on iTunes or on your iPhone. You can watch every episode, including highlights from every single game this season on podcast. So for producer Lena Bond, I am James Yoder. Michigan is 8-4. They lose to Ohio State 31-20. Go Blue.